File 24. The police tape that moves. We got called just after midnight to film pickup footage for a local segment about an apartment homicide that had already been cleared by detectives. By the time our van rolled up, the patrol cars were gone, the floodlights were off, and the whole building looked like it had been forgotten on purpose. The only thing still marking the scene was a second-floor unit with yellow police tape stretched across the hallway and over the doorframe in 3 crooked bands. My reporter stayed downstairs with the producer, going over stand-up lines, while I took the camcorder up alone to get the slow, creeping hallway shots they always wanted for B-roll. The corridor was narrow, dead quiet, and washed in that weak apartment lighting that makes every wall look sick. At the far end, the taped-off door stood perfectly still for a moment. Then the bottom strip lifted and fell once, like a chest taking a breath. I thought it was air pressure at first. Old buildings do that. Vents kick on, doors settle, windows leak. So I kept filming and walked a little closer, letting the zoom breathe in and out the way I usually do when I want footage to feel accidental. The tape twitched again. Not randomly this time. The top strip stayed still while the middle one pushed forward, slowly, then flattened again against the wood. I stopped walking. There was no sound from inside the unit. No footsteps. No television. No plumbing. Just the hum of the hallway light above me and the soft mechanical hiss of the camera. I whispered into the mic, mostly to mark the moment for editing later, and said, "There it is again." The second I spoke, all 3 strips of tape fluttered at once. I called downstairs and asked if anyone had come up behind me without me hearing them. My producer answered immediately and sounded annoyed, said no, and asked if I had enough footage yet. Before I could reply, she stopped talking mid-sentence. Then she asked, "Why are you knocking?" I looked at the door. I wasn't touching it. Both my hands were on the camera. A hollow thump came from the other side, followed by another, evenly spaced, like knuckles hitting wood from inside the apartment. My producer heard it clearly over the open line. She told me to get away from the unit and come back downstairs. I should have listened. Instead, I framed the tape tighter and held still, because the middle strip had started bulging outward in tiny pulses that matched the knocks exactly. Not hard, not all the way, just enough for the latch to click and stop, like someone on the other side was trying it carefully, testing whether the seal mattered. The police tape had been wrapped over the jamb and across the handle, so the door couldn't swing open without tearing it, but the metal still moved under pressure. My breath got loud in the mic. I remember taking a step back and nearly tripping over my own cable bag. Then the handle slowly returned to its original position. I said my producer's name twice. She didn't answer. When I checked the phone screen, the call had ended. A second later, my camcorder audio peaked with a low, wet inhale that did not come from the hallway. I backed up far enough to get the entire doorway in frame. That was when I noticed the tape wasn't moving because of air. It was moving around a shape. Not a full body, just pressure points appearing and disappearing beneath the strips, tracing a head-height outline from left to right, like something inside was leaning close and gliding its face along the barrier. The tape would lift where a forehead should have been, then dip where a mouth might be, then jerk at shoulder height before going slack again. I told myself it was the adhesive peeling. I told myself the detectives had left a fan running. I told myself a lot of things in about 3 seconds. Then a voice from inside the apartment said, in my reporter's exact voice, "Are you still rolling?" I ran. Not all the way downstairs. Just to the stairwell landing, where I stopped because I heard my reporter calling up to me from the floor below. She sounded normal, nervous, but normal. She asked why I had hung up and why I was stomping around when we were supposed to be keeping things quiet. I leaned over the rail and saw her standing 1 level down with the producer beside her, both looking up. I asked if either of them had come near the unit. They said no. I asked if either of them had called my name from inside the apartment. They stared at me. My producer said, "What apartment?" I pointed to the hall behind me. Both of them went still. Then my reporter said, That tape was on the 3rd floor, not the 2nd. I swung the camera back toward the hallway, suddenly sure I had gone to the wrong floor. But the corridor behind me wasn't the same anymore. The taped door was still there, only now the apartment number plate above it was missing. The wall where the neighbor's framed unit notices had been was bare. Even the carpet pattern looked darker, older, like the building had quietly switched decades while I wasn't looking. I took 2 steps toward the door and heard my reporter shouting for me not to move. When I looked back down into the stairwell, neither of them was there. The landing below was empty. That same hollow knocking started again behind me. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. On the LCD screen, the timestamp glitched and reset to all zeros. The tape split down the middle with a soft tearing sound. Not all the way across, just enough to leave a narrow opening over the center of the door, like parted lips. There was no light inside the apartment, but there was depth, more depth than the room should have had. My on-camera light touched the gap and disappeared into it without illuminating anything. It looked less like a room and more like a space behind the room, something set farther back than the apartment's real walls. Then a hand came through the broken tape. It was pale, adult-sized, and wrong in the way mannequins are wrong when they almost pass for real. The fingers were too still at first. Then they curled once around the edge of the door frame, slowly, possessively, like whoever owned them was deciding whether to step out. I did what people always swear they'd never do in footage like this. I zoomed in. The hand stayed locked on the frame while something behind it shifted, not forward but upward, as if it were unfolding to stand. The torn strips of tape began lifting and falling again in deeper pulls now, like lungs filling with more air than a human chest could hold. Then the camera picked up a reflection in the brass peephole. It wasn't me. It was my reporter, standing directly in front of the door, holding a microphone and smiling into the lens with bloodless lips. But I was alone in the hall. I spun around anyway. Empty. When I turned back, the reflection had changed. Now it showed me kneeling by the door with my forehead pressed to it from the other side. The footage gets rough after that because I dropped the camera against my chest and ran blind for the stairs. You can still hear everything clearly. My shoes pounding, the strap hitting the body of the camcorder, my breathing getting ragged. And under it all, another set of footsteps matching mine perfectly, half a beat later. I hit the landing and almost collided with 2 uniformed officers coming up. Real officers this time, responding to a call from my producer, who had apparently lost contact with me 4 minutes earlier. 4 minutes. I'd been on that floor nearly 20. I grabbed one of them and pointed back toward the taped unit. He asked me which unit. I said the one at the end of the hall. He shined his light past me. There was no tape there, no door either. Just a blank wall with fresh paint over it, like an apartment entrance had been sealed years ago. We reviewed the footage with the station manager the next morning. The first half was usable in the worst possible way. You could see the tape breathing. You could hear the knocks. You could watch the handle turn. But the strangest part came near the end, when the brass peephole caught that warped reflection. We froze it frame by frame, trying to make sense of what it showed. It wasn't my reporter. It wasn't me either. It was somebody holding the camera from inside the apartment, filming out through the broken tape at a man standing in the hall. The man in the hall was me. He was smiling. And just before the file cuts to black, the smiling version of me leans toward the door and whispers, in a voice so close it clips the mic, "You should have opened it when it was still asking." If this file got under your skin, that means it worked. Drop a comment with the moment that hit hardest, and subscribe before the next tape surfaces. More POV horror files are coming, and some crime scenes do not stay closed from the inside.